Hello and welcome to the Good Taste channel. Even as far back as 2 centuries ago, if you thought of yourself as a civilized person, you were expected to visit Paris. Even though back then the city looked nothing like the urban masterpiece it is today. I mean, nothing at all. Seriously. See, back then, you didn't go to Paris for sightseeing. You went for the bustle, the energy, the unstoppable march of civilization. It was a cultural hub, a place where writers, philosophers, artists, composers, and their patrons mingled, where new ideas were born, where theater was a cult. And yet, back then, many agreed that compared, say, to Rome, Paris was, unpleasant, dirty, arrogant, cramped. The narrow medieval streets lined with buildings sporting slanting facades, they were more claustrophobic than charming, really. The sewage system left a lot to be desired. Aristocratic salons stood side by side with unbridled poverty. And this, mind you, was after Napoleon's infrastructure reforms. Cleanup projects, new sources of drinking water, and other upgrades. And yet, it was already, the city of light. It already featured, Notre Dame, the arches, the two walkable boulevards, yes, there were only two, the Louvre, the Palais Royal, the Place de la Concorde, the Pont Neuf, the Luxembourg Palace. You could sit in cafes drinking coffee and wine, although I must say the coffee was just awful back then. No, it wasn't very attractive. And then something happened. Something so dramatic that the entire world had to take notice. Napoleon's nephew, who answered to the name Louis Napoleon, was an odd fellow. Following the Bourbon Restoration, he and his mother went into exile, specifically to Switzerland, where he attended a military school. He was still a kid back then. As a result, he would speak French with a slight German accent for the rest of his life. Ironically, his uncle, the emperor, spoke French with an Italian accent. But that's a story for another day. So, upon growing up, this Louis Napoleon character wrote books on political theory, visited England, befriended the aristocracy there, and began an affair with a wealthy English heiress named Harriet Howard, who would then go on to fund his political ambitions. Then came another revolution in France. A provisional government was formed, elections followed, and those who revered the late emperor, who were sick of stupid, greedy kings and corrupt democratic republicans, they turned out in force, electing Louis Napoleon president. Now, the new constitution limited the presidency to a single 4-year term, and that did not sit well with Louis. He had grand plans, he had a vision. 4 years wasn't nearly enough, and campaigning was a bore. So, long story short, he staged a coup d'etat. Those were glorious days, well, for him anyway. His men barricaded the narrow medieval streets leading to the National Assembly. The legislators were given an ultimatum. Papers were signed. Louis Napoleon became president for life. A year later, the title changed. The word president was replaced with the word emperor. That's how he became, you know it, Napoleon III. The ease with which he seized power surprised many, including himself. And that got him thinking. Yeah, I know. It's complicated. Yes, he was a reformer. Yes, he wanted to restore France to its former glory. Yes, he promoted agricultural modernization to prevent famine, and that project was a smashing success. And yet he was uncomfortable. He had this feeling that what he had done to the assembly people could easily be done to him. Like someday some rascal would rally a mob, block off the narrow streets, and overthrow him. Something had to be done about that. He did something, all right, even though the idea may not have been entirely his. Paris needed a facelift anyway. The traffic was a nightmare. Sanitation was. Don't even get me started on that. Some historians will tell you that the fear of a possible coup wasn't the greatest motivation for the reconstruction of Paris. But hey, I'm a storyteller, and to me, you see, dramatic angles are oftentimes more compelling than strictly political ones. So here's what happened: Napoleon III. Well, let's just say he was lucky that time. A highly competent man called Georges Eugène Osman, whichever way you want to pronounce it, was recommended to him. After a brief interview, the emperor appointed him prefect of the Seine, putting him in charge of planning and construction. Osman was more than just a skilled administrator and urban planner. He was a man of impeccable taste. His proposal was to cut broad, straight boulevards through the medieval maze, connecting the city's key landmarks. Boulevards! Yeah, boulevards. See, a boulevard has many advantages, but the one advantage that must have appealed the most to the emperor was the fact that you can't barricade a boulevard. Narrow streets, that's just too easy. You pile up some trash and some old furniture, and you got your barricade. And these rascals, the Parisians, they had been doing it for centuries. They had all the experience and the know-how. Boulevards are too wide to barricade. No barricades, no revolutions. And so the project commenced and continued on for 20 years. Did I mention that Osman was a man of good taste? Every day he would walk around Paris with a notebook, carefully taking notes which buildings were to be demolished and which to be preserved. When you stroll around Paris, down a boulevard, and you see a building, a church, a residential building, set at a slight angle to the boulevard. It's sitting on the boulevard, but it's a slight angle to it. Know this: Osman liked it and decided to spare it. He tried to preserve anything that, in his eyes, had either historical or aesthetic value. However, even an emperor has to respect what? Property laws. In order to demolish a building, you have to purchase it first. Which, of course, resulted in what? Well, corruption. Plans were leaked, purchased, shady deals were made, buildings were bought for pennies and then resold to the government for a fortune. But that's to be expected, right? I mean, you put a lot of people and a lot of money together, and what you have is corruption. The trick is to keep it manageable. So Osman managed it. And so the transformation of Paris continued. He was not a man to leave aesthetics to chance. As he interviewed potential contractors, he laid down some pretty strict rules. Number one, each building must occupy the entire block. Number two, it must have beveled corners, perfect for cafes and flower shops. Number three, buildings must be 6 stories tall. Number four, wrought iron balconies must run along the entirety of the second and fourth floors, corner to corner. Number five, French roofs with mansard apartments are required. Number six, the eaves and the French roof must be pitched at exactly 45 degrees. Number 7, limestone will be the primary material. Number 8, wide sidewalks lined with tall, shady trees are a must. When you walk along any of those boulevards today and you look around at the buildings, you might ask, what style is this? Neoclassical? Baroque? Some combination of the two? With a hint of Beaux-Arts, maybe? No, it's Osman's style. Even though historians insist on calling it the Second Empire, silly pedants, He also built train stations, opened new parks, and oversaw the construction of the famous Paris Opera House. The whole project took 2 decades to complete. It bankrupted the treasury. It did play a role in Napoleon III's downfall, along with some political blunders and the Franco-Prussian War. And yet, as it was still going on, the reconstruction project, right? Some cities around the world suddenly started following Osman's model. And one of those cities, paradoxically, was Rome. Walk through the Prati district near the Vatican, and you'll see the similarities immediately. Today, the boulevards are the arteries of Paris, elegant, vibrant, essential. You can't imagine the city without them. Want to know what Paris looked like before the boulevards? Well, visit the Marais. It's one of the few areas that Osman left untouched. Today, it's clean, charming, and carefully preserved. Narrow streets, slanted facades, quaint little shops, now outfitted with modern plumbing, heating, and electricity. Paris remembers its past. That, by the way, is a habit other cities would do well to emulate. Not all boulevards remain true boulevards, but some still are, like the Boulevard de Clichy. A tree-lined walkway runs down the center, flanked by formerly carriage and now car traffic on either side. It's a good place to take a stroll, bump into some friends, decide which cafe you'll descend on tonight to share impressions of life, love, romance, history, or whatever magical things Paris inspires in you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. Check out my site. Look at some paintings. Consider purchasing some paintings, originals or prints. Look at some of my books. Consider purchasing those as well. They're fun. And I'm Ricky Vernio, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. And I'll see you soon.